Welcome to The Girl Herd,
where we talk Texas football.
and a bunch of takes you probably already heard.
But not from us.
We're super excited to have Aaron Williams, one of the best DBs to come through the Texas football
You already
program,
know.
come join us today. A little biased maybe, but that's all right. Welcome to the Girl Herd.
Oh man, I feel very much honored to be upon this podcast. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. So we obviously are in one of the best weeks of college football, Red River rivalry. So we wanted to kind of get your thoughts, feelings on going into this week. I mean, you had one of the biggest moments in a Texas OU game when you sacked Sam Bradford and then picked off whoever their QB2 was in the same game. So talk to us about it.
No, this is actually a really big game for guys that who aren't really known to the media or to the world to get their name out and really like have a name for themselves. This is like a one of the biggest games of the year, especially where we're in the position right now, going back to number one. But as you can see, it is hard to win week in, week out. We've seen Alabama fall, we've seen Tennessee fall, and now we're in the SEC, so and also Oklahoma. But it's just hard to win in a tough conference like this. So having a big game like this, knowing that it's Red River rivalry, it makes it that much impactful for UT.
Yeah, that's funny you say like guys that we don't really know. It made me think of Cameron Dicker because I was rewatching his thing from 6 years ago, like on a loop the other day, just so excited. And I feel like that's like his most famous meme and like how we came to know him and look at how well he's doing in the NFL now. I'm
Yeah.
so curious about like the balance, Aaron, when you all are preparing for a game like Texas OU, giving the guys confidence in the room, but also staying grounded at the same time. Because some of these matchups, and every year with OU, you never know. Like Sark just said, last 9, 10 years, it's been decided by one score. So mindset wise, you have to be strong in the mental, but not too high or too low. So talk to me about like that preparation and what goes into that.
Honestly, you got to continue to do what you have been doing this whole year because you don't want to do too much because then you'll be out of balance. But then also again, you don't want to go in there overly confident. It's good to have a nice balance, like you said, but you have to take it as a player, you had to look at it as just another game. It's just with a little bit of more emphasis, a little bit more value of plus the rivalry, but you just don't want to do too much, honestly, because when you start doing too much, you start doing things that you don't really initially do. Um, Throughout the week, there's a little bit more distraction, with the march. I don't even know what they call it nowadays. They probably have a different name for it, but they usually
Parade,
have a good,
rally.
oh yeah, the rally that they usually have that goes on. I'm sure they still have a few other things that they do, but the best thing you can do is just continue to just be prepared, prepare like you have been each weekend, week out, and have a little bit more rest than you usually do. You know what I'm saying? Stay away from the junk food, eat a little more healthier this week, get really hydrated. And just go out there and continue to do what you do. Because I feel like you're at Texas for a reason. Like you're already an outstanding player, or else you wouldn't be here. So to have the trust in the coaches to have a really good game plan and then trust in yourself to make sure you're prepared and when it's time for that whistle to be blown, that things just come naturally and come easy and go off of your instincts instead of just kind of rushing and doing things that you would normally wouldn't do.
You said don't act like Ocho Cinco, eating McDonald's every meal.
I mean, some players can do that. You gotta recognize your own game. Like there are things that I couldn't do that Earl can do, and there are things that Earl can do that I could do. It's just everyone has their own different game, and you have to understand who you are as a person, as a player, what those things are, and what attributes you can contribute to the team, that make the whole game plan work. Like the way the game football, it's not like basketball, it's not like baseball every like those sports are more individualized. Like you can do one player can do more than the other. With football, like you have a job, you have a certain thing that you're asked to do, And as long as you do that job, everything comes into place. You're just a piece in a puzzle. So don't try to outposition yourself when you can just do what you're supposed to do. And as long as you do that, nothing can really like fans can't come berate you because you did what you were asked to do. So as long as each guys know that, then I think they'll be fine.
There's so much emotion around this game, even as fans, and a lot of what you're talking about is like kind of keep it at bay, if you will, and do what you're supposed to be doing. But obviously, there's some emotions tied. What was your favorite part about Texas OU weekend?
As a player, it would definitely just to understand that if well, when I was playing, if you win this game, like believe it or not, you're going to the Natty. Like it's if you get past this team, you can have a strong chance. I'm not going to say you're going to go to the Natty. You have a very strong possibility of making it there, knowing that you beat a talented team like OU. But as a fan now that I'm done playing, honestly, it's the carnival, it's the food, it's reuniting with some guys that I haven't seen in a while, and seeing a different seeing the game from a different perspective. Having been a part of it, I know those guys are going through, and now looking outside in, I'm like, man, I'm glad I don't have this pressure because I've been a part of like the good and the bad. Like I've been my first two years, my freshman and sophomore year, we beat them, and then my junior year, we lost to them, and it was like going from a high to a low. So I understand what both end feels like, but the main goal of going to UT is getting that golden hat back and bringing it back to Austin, and that's really the number one. There's two things. One, first of all, being A&M is always a true thing. And then secondly, is to bring back the golden hat. So we have to pass by OU before we get to A&M. And it's a national game. And there's a lot of guys that want to take their talents and to the next level, which obviously the NFL. And to do that is games like these where the whole world is watching and when your name is always called on TV, people are like, "Oh, who's that kid?" Or why this kid's making this play. And it's like that's where your name starts to become more of a household name.
We have to ask you this. We've had a little bit of conversation in the past few weeks. If you had to lose one, who would it be? And would it be OU or A&M?
OU, honestly, just because I mean, OU is just a really good team and it's a battle. For us Longhorns, it's expected to beat A&M every year. Like it's not really like a discussion. Like they're called our little brothers slash little sisters for a reason. Like they're the kids that couldn't get to UT. That was our joke. Not really our joke. I'm gonna be honest. That's just how we felt. Like if you didn't come to UT, the best school in the state of Texas, then your second option was go to A&M. So that losing A&M, it definitely hurts more because you hear it more than you lose to OU because OU is a different state. Not really, there's not really any OU fans in the state of Texas anyways. It's a big difference between Texas and Texas A&M. So definitely losing A&M is the talk is. I mean, you could go across your neighbor and they could be A&M fans. There's a lot of Aggie alumni around the state, around the city, surprisingly. But it definitely hurts worse when you lose A&M than you do to OU.
I think Michelle would agree with you there with like the family ties and Texas A&M. Thankfully, I didn't have too much of that, but this weekend I was with my mom's side and we got to sit back with the bye weekend and look at all the fun upsets. And one of my uncles was just like, yeah, but that Aggie game, you guys are gonna lose. And I whipped around because his son's gonna be playing there next year. And I was like, my blood pressure went up. I was like, oh no, now there's gonna be
Yeah.
like smack talk and going against Texas. But honestly, Aaron, I feel like that's the right answer, especially in the current state with our new expanded playoff. Like, I feel sad in a way. And even though the Carnival and Texas OU will always be, like you said, big national stage game, but when we were in school, it really was like win and you're in for a BCS title game. But when you lose, you're kind of out of it. And that's whenever we'd head to like Holiday or Alamo Bowl. But now, honestly, this game it's not going to mean anything in terms of what we end up doing at the end of the season. So
Mhm.
I don't think we'll know anything about that after Saturday because we're just going to go in and do what we do to win the game. But I think just the whole landscape is going to change in terms of like the meaningfulness of these games within the conference.
Yeah, these kids won't have the pressure that the what I had and the guys before me had because the playoff structure really did mess up that feeling because it was what you did in your conference for you to be a part of that BCS National Championship Bowl series, whatever. Um, God forbid they lose, they still have a chance to, make it to the playoff. The thing about it this year, or from now, the way that things structured for college football is just get to the playoffs. And when you get to the playoffs, then you have a more chance of getting into the national championship because you have more chances, more games. And during the season, teams lose all the time. Like I said, Vanderbilt beat Alabama. Who would ever thought that would happen in what are we, week 4, week 5 now? And it's like if that can happen, God knows what can happen in the future. So they don't have as much pressure, but at the same time, they're at Texas, they go to UT, and that standard is so high. We're spoiled each year. The fans are always expected us to go undefeated. And rightfully so, ever since, '04 went to Rose Bowl and then the national championship the next year after that, then Fiesta Bowl after that, then back to the Natty. So it's like these fans are used to winning. So regardless if we had a little bit of a stint where we had a losing season for the last or those 4 years in between then, we came back and now we're number one in the nation and fans are feeding off of that. And we want to go. I know guys like me and fans who go to work every day and speak about going to UT, they want to have the ability to talk crap to whoever their associates are or their coworkers because it's such an honor to be a Longhorn in this, especially in the state of Texas. So they may not have the same pressure, but at the same time, they still do. It's just maybe a little bit, it's asphyxiated a little bit.
Yeah. Another thing I'm curious your thoughts on because I know whenever you were playing, we had such a deep set of talent. Like your threes and fours could honestly go out there at any given point in time. And that's a lot of the stuff that me and Angie and Michelle have been talking about as we were going into this season, what Sark was doing in the portal, like loading up our wide receiver room, look at our quarterback room, look at our running back room. I mean, and at the time we were like, okay, how is Sark going to play this on the one hand with getting all these folks looks and the ball, right? Because they are looking to go to the next level. But then on the other hand, you see what's happened with our season so far. And he's needed to go pretty deep into that running back room, for example. We've seen Arch come in. So I want to hear from you on, how you think Sark is preparing us for that 12 team playoff rather, and if like our depth is set up for that from your experience and how it maybe differs from whenever you were in school.
Well, it's definitely different because the portal didn't really exist at that time. It wasn't as popularized as it is now. Like where you went is where you're staying for the 4 or 5 years that you're going to be at school. I think Sark does a great job of him adapting to the new way of how college football is and knowing how important recruiting is. I mean, recruiting has always been important, but now it's even more important. Um, our backups are guys that can start anywhere. So for him to have that type of talent to be backups is such a crucial thing because as you can see, when Quinn went down, we put a lot of pressure on Arch. And Arch has been in there and has filled his shoes the best he can, and he's done a great job of doing so. Also, with Baxter going out, we got Jaden coming in, and when Jaden goes out, we have other guys coming in. Same thing for the receiver room. Same, I mean, it goes in each position. So that lets us know how great of a recruiting Sark does to prepare himself just in case our main guys do go down, that he still has the trust in the backups to go out there and fill those shoes. Hopefully we don't have to have those worries, but again, this is the game of football. Injuries will happen. I haven't been around or been a part of a season where a player hasn't gotten hurt during the season. So it's going to happen, But I think that Sark does a great job of his game plan and also trusting in his coaching staff and his players to next man up. And I'm sure it's a cliche saying in football world, but it's very true. Like it's going to happen. And when your name is called, just like me, my name was called my freshman year when Ryan Palmer went down. And I wasn't expecting to go in my freshman year, and I had to go in. And I ain't gonna lie, I was nervous as heck. Like seeing it from the sidelines is really cool, and then preparing it is really cool, and then being a part of like the rallies and stuff. But like when you actually have to go in the game, it's a totally different feel. So I understand what those guys are going through, but once again, you guys would not be there wearing the Texas across your chest if the coaches didn't see the potential in you as a player to go in and make plays for them. So just gotta trust in yourself and make the best of it. Like it's a well coming home for your name. Like everyone, and I don't want to scare players, but everyone's watching this game, and that's what you want. If you want to make it to the next level, everyone's gonna be watching on Sundays each week. So it's like this is your Sunday. You got to prove to yourself and prove to others like why first why Sark believes in you, and secondly why you think you should go on to the next level. So it's a great opportunity for these kids to show up and show out.
You talked about the difference of it, like stepping onto that field. Can you take us back to what it really feels like to run out of the tunnel in the Cotton Bowl and see that crowd divided right down the freaking middle? Half of it's orange, half of it's red. What
Yeah.
does that feel like? And what advice do you have for our freshmen and new guys that this is their first time experiencing this rivalry?
I mean, coming from like high school football in Texas, we all know is like out of this world. You know what I'm saying? Us
Your
members,
McNeil jersey back
yeah,
there.
yeah, always represent where I'm from. But Friday Night Lights kind of prepared us for situations like these. And then just man, the atmosphere is like literally a movie. So like I always kind of like compare it to like Friday Night Lights opening when they come out of the tunnel, and like the video camera is just looking through like the whole crowd and like the smoke, and then you can just feel just watching the movie. I mean, that's exactly how it feels. Like you get goosebumps just like walking down the ramp. And then of course, like as players, each year it's different. So either Oklahoma comes out first or Texas comes out second or vice versa. I'm not sure who goes first, but the locker rooms are right next to each other. So like when one team goes out, the other team is right at the door, and usually we're yapping at each other. No one really sees that because it's so deep in the tunnel, but we're yapping, getting like real pumped. And then right as you go and the field kind of expands in your vision, you have literally OU fans on this side throwing stuff, talking mess, saying the most obscure things, and then you have your UT fans positive vibes, yelling, throwing at the OU fans. So it's a real cool division. But once you get on that field and you just hear the roar, it's like a feeling like no other. I can't even describe it. I wish I had that feeling again. Now, when you're not playing, it's really cool because you can say whatever you want, right? Like you you're not going to make a mistake, so you say the most outlandish things, but usually the guys who are playing are really more focused, staying in tune, visualizing what they have to do on the field, visualizing what type of plays they're going to make. And then the nerves are always up until that kickoff or when you have that first hit. So it's truly one of the most amazing experiences. I've seen all levels, and honestly, the only games I ever really truly got nervous was the OU game and the A&M game, and the rest was just like another ordinary game, even including the NFL. Um, it's just something about, I mean, when you're raised in Texas, you're kind of like bred like we don't like OU. Can't spell OU without OU sucks. We don't like A&M and all this stuff. So it's a little bit more, it hits more home than any other games. Plus the division of, some family members go to A&M, some go to UT. Very little you hear, like you rarely hear Sooner fans in Austin. So, but they know how the magnitude of this game and how much it can uh, transfer or empower this team to go on further than the season, win, lose. how it can impact going into the next week or the week after that. So this game is truly like, even though A&M, see, y'all gonna be talking about A&M already. Even though OU is not ranked where they have been in the past, because when I played them, they were number 3 at the time, and I think they were like number 9. And I think they're like 19 right now or something like that. Regardless of what it is, it's still an impactful game and a game that where it's nationally televised and the whole world's gonna see. So I can't like keep repeating like how much the whole world is literally gonna watch this game, especially the fact that one, we're number 1, number 2, Alabama lost, Tennessee lost. So it's like we're truly the only like I think undefeated team besides Ohio State
Only
that
SEC team for sure.
the
Like,
only SEC team that is undefeated, but as far as like nationally known, like I think we're the only like undefeated besides Ohio State that have that standard of truly being like, oh, is Texas really where they at? Are they really back? Are they really back to their old consensus college team that everyone's grew up to watch? We don't know. We'll find out on Saturday. So it's kind of like one of those feelings more than just OU number 3 OU against number 1 Texas. It's just like, can OU sustain and be consistent where they're at today?
do you think that we will have to win a natty for people to stop saying, is Texas back? Like, what do we have to do
No,
to shut people up?
no. I think it will never be that because for whatever reason, Texas has I'm not gonna say bad reputation, but we're very spoiled in a way to where even if we win a natty, it'd be like, oh, they got lucky, and then they'll look back at our schedule and they'll point out little things to be like, this is why y'all won it. But I think it's different now because Big 12 was the second hardest conference when I was playing, and now that we're out and we're in the number 1 hardest conference in all of land, it's kind of hard to look back and point out like, oh, y'all only did this because of this and that. It's like, no, we had to show up week in and week out. SEC is nothing to play with. And we're in new times now. So these guys gonna have to show up each week, each weekend, week out. And I'm honestly super excited. I'm actually kind of jealous at them right now because these are the type of games as a player you wish to have. Like you want that pressure to put on you because it then puts like motivation and fuel for you yourself to just prove the doubters wrong. Like who wouldn't want to prove anyone wrong to say that you can't do something? And it's like as me as a player, I'm like, all right, I love when people say that y'all not gonna do this, you're not gonna do that. It's like, all right, cool, bet, watch. Sit back and watch, because that's all you're gonna do is just watch.
So playing defense and talking about these games going literally touchdown each way right at the end of the game. I mean, we've even talked about like the last minute is when the game changed hands, right? How do you keep up that stamina and give this 60 minutes of hell that we keep talking about this year? And what goes in that mindset of playing all the way to the end?
There's never a perfect game. I have not been a part of or seen a perfect game. For us DBs, we always have this mentality of have short-term memory. Like obviously anyone and everyone would love to just do things perfectly, but unfortunately life is not built or, you know, made that way to where things are perfect. So you gotta understand when things don't go your way or you do make a mistake, it's like it took me a long time to understand that a mistake is nothing but a lesson learned. It's something to look back and be like, what did I do wrong there? So it won't happen again. Instead of just pondering on it, because pondering on something that's no longer relevant is going to ruin the future of what you have going on. So instead of looking at it as a negative thing, and it's obviously a negative feeling at that time, but feelings come and go. So I always tell the kids that I always train, like, you're going to mess up, but look back and see what you did there to know not to repeat what you're like that mistake. Now, if you're repeating the mistake, then look, you just, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, that's just on you at the end of the day. But things are going to happen in the game. Fumbles, interceptions, turnovers, score back and forth. Some things are just out of your control. And the only thing you can worry about is what you truly can control. And it's really weird now thinking about me saying that now because getting out of football and into the real world, it's like it's literally the same thing, and that message means so much to me because now I like look at my mistakes, I'm just like, man, that was dumb. I probably should do that again. Instead of like I remember my junior year at UT dropping the punt, the very last punt before like I think it was like a minute, 15 seconds, something like that. I dropped the last punt to give our offense the last possession to go in and beat OU. And I pondered on that moment for weeks, like weeks. Like I replayed it in my head over and over and over. And that pretty much kind of affected my next game because I was still like, I don't want to make this mistake. I don't want to make this mistake. And it's like, if your mindset is like, I don't want to make that mistake, you're most likely going to make that mistake. Instead of just saying, all right, I probably should have just backed up a little bit and probably just looked at the ball a little longer and then boom, let's just go. But pondering on it is never going to change anything. Leave the past in the past and focus on what's coming up next. So I hope those guys are just like, I know those coaches are emphasized, especially Blake, because Blake's been a part of that. He was, everyone knows the Texas Tech game when he dropped that interception. It was like heartbreaking. I mean, heartbreaking. I remember like just DMs and threats that he had to go through, and he overcame that. And then next year go to Natty. It's really a testament of just like, yeah, that sucked at that moment, but I learned from that, and look what happened to me that following week, the following month, the next year. And I know he's in there probably right now telling those guys, look, things are going to happen, but we cannot ponder on mistakes. So if something happens, brush it off, shake it up, and go back out there and make up for it. I mean, I made a mistake in the OU game when Ryan Broyles caught a touchdown pass on me, and I went to the sideline and I went, "Yo, guys, I'm gonna make up for that. I'm gonna make up for that, I promise." And then I think like two possessions later, I picked off Landry, I think it was the quarterback at the time. So. I say all that to say things are going to happen. Mistakes are going to happen, but don't let that sit and ponder in your heart and your head and your soul because you're not going to help your teammates out by replaying something that doesn't even matter no more. It's gone, it's happened. Now you just got to move on forward.
I feel like that's such a good message for this team right now, Aaron, because we've only had 3 touchdowns scored on us. We know that that's not going to continue to happen as we keep going through the rest of our season, especially OU this weekend, Georgia right after that. So that's such a good message for, I think, the players to hear right now. It's going to go back and forth. It's going to be crazy. And as far as Blake is concerned, man, as a fan, I had my ticket booked to Miami already. So I can only imagine how he was feeling then and even now, but happy that he overcame it and we got to go to the Natty the next year. Back to 60 minutes of hell. Cool. We've got this game coming up. Talk to me about, if you're the coach and also as a player, how do you keep your guys healthy through that game? The physicality of this game every year is something that's heavily talked about. And then we got to turn this thing around and go to Austin, Texas on the 19th and play those dogs. And they are not going to be playing with us. They're going to give us that, tough love, welcome to the SEC, I'm sure. So what goes into that process of practicing hard, but also like keeping your body ready?
Really got to understand how to practice. There's a certain way to practicing. Like you don't touch the quarterback. You don't really tackle. Like all that was done in training camp. All that was done before school came in. All that was done in March, April, May, June, July, beginning of August. Like that was when you went hard to the wall, full pads, contact. Now it's more of understanding of being stable and letting your body, because this is a long season. I think it's longer than heck when I was playing at the time, but really knowing how to practice. Like it's more Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday is more of a visual slash conditioning thing than it is working on your technique. All that stuff was in the off season. Like you should have been worked on that in the off season. And it's more visualizing. You repeat the same play over and over. You go through their normal drives, like what they do, their tendencies on this drive, their tendencies on high red zone, what they do on third down. Like that's the time Monday through Friday of what you need to more focus on than it is like building my body up to sustain this long of a season. It's all mental at this point. We all that from the off season, that was more built up to build your body up so you can sustain this long week by week OU, then Georgia, then whoever we have after that. And then after that, now it's more of a mental visualize what plays that need to be made and to repeat those tendencies they have. So when it comes time during the game, it's like, dang, hold on. It's like it's a feeling of a deja vu. It's like when you're out there, when you're just like moving around, you're like, whoa, hold on. I did this before.
Like muscle memory.
Yeah, it's very much muscle memory. So it's like being out there and it's like, okay, seeing the formation, seeing the set, and then you're like, you see a motion come over, you're like, whoa, crap, I know. And then also it's trusting your instincts. Like there's been a lot of times where I didn't trust my instincts. Like I felt that little buzz in my body of saying like, oh yeah, dude, jump this route. But I think it's the caution of fear of not making the mistake that prevents you from being a big time playmaker. Sometimes you just gotta gamble it sometimes. I'm not gonna say all time. Don't, still stay in your mode of being a player of who you are. But when you've been studying for so long and you've been studying the same thing over and over and over, when you get that feel of like, man, I think this is that play, sometimes you gotta just take it. And those times it's gonna pan out. Sometimes it's not, but at least you tried instead of let the other person beat you instead of you beating yourself. I'd rather beat myself because I don't want anyone else's ability or plays to affect mine because I let them do what they want instead of me trusting in myself. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I do go back and watch those games and be like, man, I should have done that. I should have done this. Should have done that. But it's just like it was a learning thing. I'm older now. I'm more mature and understand. Like I just should have trusted my instincts. So I hope those guys are now, feeling that their game is so on point to where they don't feel like they should pull back. Go for it.
Mm.
Take some of those gambles because you don't want to be like me and be like, man, I knew that play was coming and I didn't make it because I was nervous or scared to let my teammates down. I'd rather let my teammates down trying to make a play than not trying to make a play. So film study and really understanding the magnitude of this game, meaning not to go out Sixth Street, not to hit those frat parties, not to drink that week, whatever the case may be, and just understand that those those things aren't going nowhere. But this magnitude of this game, this is the only opportunity you'll have, and to take advantage of it and just let those other distractions be a distraction, let that be over there, and you know lock in these next, what's today, Monday, lock in these next 4 days and just, it'll pan out. In the future, you're gonna look back and be like, man, I'm glad I did all that.
And like trusting in your teammates, right? So if you're about to try to jump that route, hopefully you have enough trust that somebody's covering you
Hey,
over
like
the
I
top.
said, piece of the puzzle, but somebody's gonna have your back. This is a team sport. If one makes a mistake, one's gonna try to, back you up and make sure that that person gets down or it doesn't really bleed us as a team too much to the point where you're now questioning yourself and questioning the game plan of what coach presented and just do you. Do what brought you here, do what got you there, and trust yourself of preparing that whole week and understanding what you see is what you get.
So you said OU, Georgia. Do you know who we play after that?
I don't even know because
Vanderbilt.
see, there we go.
Of
Vanderbilt.
course.
So like, and everyone is like, all right, we just got to get through OU, Georgia.
No,
Do we just see what Vanderbilt did?
I'm not gonna lie, SEC is just like playing in the NFL. Each week is in any given Saturday. Like I'm sure Alabama fans were like, "Oh, we just came back and had an unbelievable game against Georgia. Who we have next? Oh, Vanderbilt. Tuh, tuh. Yeah, all right. You have that tough. You want to see what happens. So it's a testament to and I hope these guys are watching. Like there are things you can learn even when it doesn't happen to you initially. Like you're in the same conference. Vanderbilt that no one thought, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even think. I thought, okay, they're down at half, they'll come back. It's one of those games, but nah, this is the SEC. This is not, the Big 12 anymore where, we're playing Kansas or we're playing, I don't want to name those
It,
schools because
say it.
those Iowa States or anything like that, those days are gone. You need to show up week in and week out. And when I was playing, I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna tell you all the truth. When we got the schedule, we looked at our preseason team. Okay, no one there. Looked at our regular team. We obviously knew that what our conference was. So we looked, and at that time, it was literally only OU and Oklahoma State, Oklahoma at that time. So it was like, all right, we get past those two teams, we're good. Now it's like week week in, week out. It's like you're not overlooking any teams anymore. Like when we got our schedule, it was like, okay, 35-7. Okay, 45-0. Like that's how we literally planned it out. We were like, oh, Kansas, and we ain't worry about them. Oklahoma State, and we ain't worry about them. Kansas State, Iowa State, we were more focused of Oklahoma and A&M. Now it's like Georgia, Vanderbilt, and whoever else we got going on. I don't even know because the SEC is just crazy. I really focus on who we have this week, and I don't want to look ahead.
I'm glad that you're saying this because I didn't want to ask you this because I didn't know that you'd be so honest about it. But I knew that's how it was when we were in school, that you all were like, oh, no, like that's a bit. But now, like, they really can't. And honestly, I think some of what we saw this past weekend has to do with the transfer portal, though, because that confidence that you all had, we had all the guys, USC had all the guys, Ohio State, like your main schools, Bama, Florida at the time. And now, I mean, you can see a 5-star at UTSA. We saw one there whenever we played them. So it's just so different.
It's super different, and I'm not gonna lie, we had the right leadership
Mhm.
for us to have that confidence because there were some times where we would overlook guys and we weren't as focused because we felt like we had more ability, way more playmakers on our team than others. But we had guys like Brian Arakpo who did not play at all. Colt McCoy, Quan Cosby, those guys reminded us that, yeah, we may have more athletes, better coaching, this and that, but at the end of the day, we still got to go out there and work. So we had the right leadership to come bring us, like reel us in. Um, and man, y'all bring me back. It brings me back to like coming from an '09 national championship playing Alabama to then having a crap of a year in 2010 to even when 2010 came, we were like, "Psh, Garrett Gilbert handled Alabama in the Natty as a freshman, bro. We're about to go back." And then for us to fall to UCLA and then fall to Iowa State and then struggle against FAU, it's just like that leadership was lost when those guys left. We were so on a high horse and we were so cocky at that time. We had just freshman year, at least my '08 class, we had just came from a Fiesta Bowl, and then we go to the Natty, and it's just like, bro, like we have the #1 quarterback in recruiting class, Garrett Gilbert coming in, almost beating a great Alabama team. Like, why do we need to look at UCLA? Yeah,
Yeah.
UCLA stomped us. So
This is
it's
important. This is
yeah,
important, Aaron,
yeah.
because I feel like you're speaking on things that I got to witness because I came onto campus. I was a senior in high school when Vince won the '05 one. So I came into college right when he was graduating. And I just remember it being this cockiness about the program. And like it took us the whole 4 years to get back to the Natty. So like we were resting on our laurels. And that's what you're talking about. Like with your group. So it's really cool to hear about Rack and all the folks who are like keeping everyone grounded and focused. And it's kind of what I love about this year's team the most. You all, we done been through it with our program. And boys done worked hard. We're back at the top, but I don't think the #1 ranking and being back on top, like, is gonna affect us or distract us in ways that I think like it affected us before.
It shouldn't, because it doesn't even matter. Back then, your ranking mattered where you were at. Nowadays, it's like just be good enough to get to the playoffs. And then when it comes to the playoffs, then you can, I'm not gonna say you really lock in, but it's just like you're not really as concerned of where you're at ranked, because once you're in the playoffs, it's literally each game. Like one anybody can win, and once you get to the playoffs. So for us, it was different because style points, where you ranked, and your conference mattered to get to a BCS standing. Now it's just get to the playoffs. And then once you get to the playoffs, all right, cool. Let's really lock in. Who do we have? All right, bam, we have this. Okay, da 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 da. For us, it was like each week mattered. How many points you scored, how many points you gave up,
Mhm.
how strong your schedule was, like all that really mattered into the decision makers of the BCS guys who made those decisions. Now those guys are not even a factor anymore. It's win enough to get to the playoffs, and then we'll worry about what we need to worry about when that happens.
Love it.
So I'm gonna be a little messy because you guys know that I worked at LSU for a little while, and there is this debate about who DBU is.
Yeah.
And you're the perfect person, so let us know.
Well, tell your LSU people there would never be even a discussion of what DBU was unless people were talking about it at Texas. Now, if you think about it before, when I'm trying to think of the guys who were at LSU at that time. Who was your guy that was there? God, I forgot his
Corey
name.
Webster.
Corey Webster. When Corey Webster was at LSU, ain't nobody was saying LSU was DBU. DBU has always been at Texas since Quinn Jammer, Nathan Vasher, Aaron Ross, Michael Griffin. Like those guys are from 2000 and on. And it really was a staple for DBU being at Texas when Michael won the Thorpe Award. It was like, oh, yo, no, Texas really is DB, because before Mike was a first rounder and a Thorpe Award winner, we had Nathan Basher who went first round, then we had Quentin Jammer went first round, Aaron Ross went first round. So it was like you really didn't hear any LSU talk. You didn't hear about Ohio State talk. You didn't hear Alabama, because Alabama wasn't even Alabama then. So, I mean, I will give them this. Right now, they are currently considered DBU because of, what they've accomplished the last since my year, so 2010, or no, sorry. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, since 2011, 2010, when Patrick Peterson came out for them, they've been DBU, Tyrann Matthews, Morris Claiborne, all those guys. I will give them that. But there wasn't even a consideration of what a DBU was unless Texas didn't start shouting out to the world, like, if you want to be a great DB, you come to Texas. And that brings, I'm gonna give all praise and recommendation to Coach Aquina, because without him, there wasn't a DBU. And people, broadcasters weren't talking about it until Coach Keenan started, letting people know, like, he was talking his ish. Like no, I've had 4 first rounders, and then I've had uh 3 or 4 second rounders. I mean, I can literally go down the line. Up until 2011, we've had about 6 first rounders and three or 4 second rounders, and that's pretty hard coming to a college team like that. And then we had a drop, and it's funny though, because when we had a drop, now all of a sudden, oh, we DBU, we DBU this. And I had some guys when I was in the league that came from LSU that we had on our team when I was in Buffalo, that they were started wearing DBU shirts, and I had to remind them, like, yo, this shirt right here, this was from 2007. It's 2006. Like, y'all's grandfathers. Show respect to your elders, all right? So y'all can handle it now, but don't forget, we can still whip off that belt and still, you know what I'm saying? So I just want to keep it clear that Texas has always started and implemented what DBU was. Now we'll give the other schools credit, but don't get it twisted. There wouldn't have been DBU if it wasn't for Texas.
You heard it here first, Fapes.
Yeah, like like put respect on her name. Like we really worked hard to have that because that was one of the reasons why I did go to UT. For the ones that don't know, like I was always honestly was supposed to go to Auburn, and then Coach Muschamp came over and I had to talk with Coach Akina, and Mike was like a huge mentor, like my brother now. What made me decide to go to UT, and it just showed like the legacy of what it was. And he was like, if you want to make it to the next level, this is where you want to be. So it wasn't anything like LSU did or Alabama or Ohio State. Like no disrespect, you guys weren't even in a radar at that time for any DBEs to go over there to be that because y'all were known for something else. So Texas will always be DBU, the godfathers of DBU. Call it what you want. The history speaks for itself.
Godfathers. I love it.
Love it. Are you coming to OU?
I wish I was. I'm gonna let the you know what? My first time ever going to OU game as a fan, I honestly don't know how y'all do it. The parking, the traffic, the unlimited amount of people that just are berating your space, the numerous of fights, the how expensive things are there. I'm just like, yo, shout out to y'all for like supporting us because standing in that heat, dealing with people you don't want to deal with, um, as great as those corn dogs and those funnel cakes and the turkey legs are, yo, I got bills to pay. I'm not gonna waste my money on this. The parking, I hope you exercise because you're gonna be walking about 3 miles, maybe even 4. And and on top of that, the pricing on parking is crazy. I ain't gonna lie to you. God, and then on top of that, you gotta buy tickets. It's like, nah, I'm gonna stay and watch it from the comfort of my own home.
Love.
I I've been blessed enough to experience it firsthand, so I know what it feels like, and then I gotta observe it from a fan perspective, and I appreciate both, but I'm gonna let the fans be the fans and watch it in my own company.
But you said you are coming to a game this season. Isn't that what you
Most,
told?
yeah,
What
yeah.
game is it going to
I will
be?
most likely come to the Georgia game. I
That's what I
can't miss
thought.
that Georgia game. Only because it's not in Georgia. That's one. Two, it's in Austin, and I'm part of DBU, so they got no choice but to let me in. So I don't even care. Like, I move all that. I'm just gonna go support the guys, get those guys ready, prepared. But we'll speak on that after we beat OU. We're gonna focus on the Red River rivalry because I don't want to look ahead. I feel like I'm a player right now because if I start looking ahead, I'm gonna be like, oh, what was the game plan again? I forgot. So, but no,
Short-term memory. Short-term
yeah,
memory.
short term. Like, let's stay here, right here, stay the present. We're not gonna look in the future yet.
That's what we've been doing. We're acting like we're players. Every week on the pod, we're like 1-0, 1-0. That's all we need to focus on as if like we have anything to do with this. But you did forget we also wear our cowgirl boots to these games and walk that 3 miles, Aaron. So everything that you said is valid. As much as I'm so blessed and lucky to get to go to these games, sometimes watching it in the comforts of your home with AC is just top
It
tier.
hit the spot. Your ankles ain't hurting. You ain't got no blisters on your Achilles or nothing. So, no, I feel you on that. I
Yeah,
definitely
what
feel.
I'm hearing is you're going to get us some field passes even for a home game because we have to do all that at home game.
Look, I just gotta be. Luckily for me, I got my name somewhere in that stadium, and I'm just like, look, because I've gotten stopped a few times. I'm just like, look, I'm not even trying to be here on that type of time. Just want to say what's up to the people I know. Coach Sark knows who I am. I go there, talk to the guys all the time. I just want to, go on the field and just kind of replay my glory days for a good 20 minutes. And then when that kickoff goes, I'm gonna go right back on home, get in the comfort of my own couch and watch the game. So
But it's so cool. I love that you all do that for like the Georgia games. It reminds me of like big boxing matches where they like come out with their crew. It's like we got to have all of our guys who are like there during like the biggest times of our program. So love that you're going to Georgia. Anything else, ladies? Otherwise, I want to say thank you so much, Aaron, for your time. This is
yeah,
so
no, this is dope.
I feel like we have to end it by saying it's 5:56 p.m.
And I feel
fun.
like, oh, you still suck. You know what I'm saying? We're always gonna say that. I don't care where we're at. I don't care up until kickoff. you're gonna hear that saying from me. I might even tweet that out later today just for shits and giggles. So
But
Didn't
I
know.
think though, I think we need to see more like game day outfits from you. We know you like to dress, even though you're gonna be at home. Like,
yeah, I gotta
love those
go.
boots. Western's back in.
Western's
Full.
back.
I know
Western
you.
never left my blood at all.
Mhm.
Just man, it'd be hot in that stadium with that turf. Like I don't want my boots to smell like my soles. I like, and boots ain't cheap. That's another thing.
We
You go to
know.
Cavender's or wherever you want to go shopping at, them boots about $400, $500 now. I'm just saying, depending on what kind of pair you get. So I like to, sustain, make because I still gotta go dancing here every now and then. So I want to keep the longevity.
Luke Casey, you now look after UT. DBU, get him some
Come on,
boots.
let's come bring it here. Come on.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We'll let you know whenever we're posting it.
Thank you for having me. This was fun. Y'all got me in my memory lane, and I love
Love
going
it.
back and just being like, oh, glory days. But
So good.
feel old saying that now. Like, I'm not even old either, but it's just like I never thought this time would come so fast. Life is coming so fast. It was just like before where Angie was cheering for us, Michelle was cheering for us, and y'all were just like right there through the whole process. And now we're just like looking at these young kids and being like, yo, when we were in school, this is what happened. And it's like it's a full circle and it's actually really cool and exciting to see.
It wasn't that long ago that you were little one.
I know, but no big one. Hey, ding. I'm just saying, I'm out
I had
there.
to tell myself today, like, don't call him little one on the pod.
Yeah,
That's
little no longer little no more. So, I know I'll always be that to y'all's heart, but it's just really cool to see, where we're at and like us doing our own things and thriving and succeeding in our own fields and then coming back to where it all started, where we were young guns trying to figure out what we were going to do in the world and to come back and talk about those experiences is just really cool.
Yes. Aren't you like so impressed by all of us? I'm impressed by all of us because like whenever we were in school, I was like, we are all out of control and I didn't know what
Nah,
was gonna
look,
happen. And we're all doing good.
we don't need to expose what our college days was like, but just let the kids know. If you think you're doing it correctly, I can tell you right now, you ain't doing it right.
Well,
I'm
I was
telling
about to
you
say,
right
if
now.
you had a chance to go to Vanderbilt, play at Vanderbilt, how would have Nashville, those streets would have been for you?
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. Just know I was running things back then, so I'm just saying,
My
like,
gosh.
I'm gonna keep it at that.
Hey,
Stories in the vault.
Yeah.